going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImacSports.
Instagram, also Max Sports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 243. We now know our second round matchups for the NBA playoffs, but also, just as important, we're getting back on track with our baseball talk. We've been a couple weeks off of the big storylines here in baseball, and a lot of things have changed. So definitely have some talking points for the baseball season, Kyle.
Yeah, we've 3 weeks removed from our last power rankings, so we'll get into those today. And our first real check-in for playoff predictions, and if the season ended today, season awards. So it's always a fun little episode when we get to check in on this stuff, and we'll do that today. But first, we got to get to our openers. And Skyler, you've got a great one, so I'm gonna let you lead off with that.
Yeah, we had a bunch of game sevens in the NBA playoffs so far, but when your team's in it, it feels a little different. And that Warriors-Rockets game 7 on Sunday night felt like a game 7 immediately. Everyone was fighting just to get a contested look with one guy, with Steph Curry getting guarded by multiple all night long. Buddy Hield ends up being the hero. He finishes with 33 and ties the game 7 record for threes in NBA history, which is incredible. The Warriors moved past Houston. I know the last time we talked about it, we were both a little nervous about going into Houston for a game 7, but they did their job, and now they're going to Minnesota for tonight.
Yeah, game 1, like you said, is tonight against the Timberwolves. So we're getting this episode done a little early, so that doesn't interfere with that at all, because that should be a fun series, and of course want to have our attention back to that. My opener probably would also be that game 7, but I knew that you were going to choose that, so I decided to go somewhere else, and that was Gunnar Hoglund's MLB debut that we saw on Friday night against the Miami Marlins. Gunnar Hoglund was a big piece that we got in the Matt Chapman trade 3 years ago, has battled injury with Tommy John even before we got him, and then got Tommy John, I believe, again, dealt with injuries for a good portion of 2023 as well, too. Came back that year, pitched in Double-A, I want to say. Interesting year in 2024. Came into spring training this year, and the velo was up. The stuff looked good, and a lot of the pitching guys that I follow on Twitter and whatnot were saying, hey, maybe we should start looking at this guy again. He was a number 1 pick by the Blue Jays for a reason back in 2021, and was a top prospect then. Has kind of fallen off those boards, but kind of got, hey, maybe this guy's got something in it. Was performing well in AAA. The A's finally give him a chance. And the 25-year-old did not disappoint in his MLB debut. 6 innings, just 1 run allowed, 7 strikeouts, and 0 walks was the biggest thing from him that we saw. People talk about his stuff as being something, but the biggest kicker with him is his command, and just how important it is if you want to win to not walk anybody. Really, win decides lots of games in the MLB, and what he showed on Friday was pretty cool to see, and hopefully he's here to stay, because a starter like that for an A's team that's been pushing up, maybe makes an appearance in our power rankings this time, would mean a ton. And I think we both see that firsthand.
Yeah, the skill was never the issue with Gunnar Hoglund. It was Ole Miss running his arm into the ground trying to win a championship.
Yeah, but that takes us now to our player, pitcher, rookie of the week. A lot of good pitching performances by rookies specifically, but we'll start off with the player of the week. Skyler, who did you choose here?
Yeah, I knew this was going to be Kyle Stowers immediately after that walk-off grand slam off of Mason Miller. It hurts to watch it, but now that we're past it and we've had a great win since then, I'm over it. And I can give this award to Kyle Stowers because he had a week high, 4 homers, 10 ribbies, and Stowers finally finds a starting role after leaving Baltimore. I feel like this lineup has a couple guys that are going to stick, which is more than most people thought about this Marlins team.
Yeah, the Marlins have low-key been kind of exciting, and I didn't think we'd expect to see that at all from the offensive standpoint, but Kyle Stowers has been a great story, and he is my player of the week as well, too. The Stanford Prod was 8 for 21 this past week, 2 homers, a double, 4 homers, including that game-winning grand slam, 10 RBIs, and an OPS over 1,400. Kyle Stowers finally breaking out for the Marlins, and I'm sure Peter Bendix is pretty happy about that Trevor Rogers trade from last year.
Yes.
Moving into pitcher of the week.
There were plenty of 6-inning shutout performances this week, so I'll go with one from a guy that I appreciate watching, Kevin Gausman. He had a great game against Cleveland, and I knew I should never give up on Kevin Gausman, even though he's getting up there. It was another 6-inning shutout, 1 hit, 1 walk, 9 Ks. The bullpen unfortunately blows it for him, but Gausman definitely still has it. It's good to see.
My pitcher of the week is going to be A.J. Smith-Shawver, the rookie for the Atlanta Braves. Brought a no-hit bid into the 8th inning yesterday, which I believe is the longest that we've seen so far this year. He ends up going 8 total innings, only 1 hit allowed, 0 runs, 4 walks, 5 Ks. For a Braves team that needs big performances from starters right now, and A.J. Smith-Shawver brought that. Moving to the rookie of the week.
Yeah, the guy you just mentioned, fantastic, right? Finally comes through. I'm sure we'll talk about him a little later, too. In this episode, but I have to give him a tie with Jacob Wilson because he comes through once again. He's the second fastest player in 50 years to have 3 career walk-off hits. He's also hitting .423 this week, and a big reason why the A's are only 1 game out of first.
Yeah, for Rookie of the Week, Smith-Shawver should be probably a default. But I feel like I wanted to mention Noah Cameron as well, too, who made his first big league start for the Royals this past week and brought a no-hit bid in the 8th on his MLB debut, which is pretty ridiculous. He ends up going 6 in the 3rd, only 1 hit allowed. Did have 5 walks, but 0 runs and 3 strikeouts. So the flurry of rookies, if you want to go Shawver, Cameron, Wilson, or even Gunnar Hoglund as well, too, for his MLB debut performance. I really think there's no wrong answers there. Which brings us to our power rankings. Always fun to do, especially when we haven't done them in a little while. Usually we do them every other week. But with the NFL draft kind of throwing things off these past few weeks, we pushed them back to do everything in the MLB in 1 week in its entirety. So we'll get started with any, I don't know about honorable mentions, but any teams that you want to talk about that did not make the list?
Yeah, a couple teams that really cooled off over the past 3 weeks were the Angels, the Blue Jays, and the Cardinals. They did not make my list.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Rays were one of the teams that did not make the list. Did for me last time. They were at 14 for me. They're still close. I would say probably in between the 17 to 20 range right now, but obviously off that list. The Cincinnati Reds I had at 13 last time. They would probably be 16 or 17, I'd say, so not too far of a drop, but definitely not there. And then the Angels, who I had at 12 last time, now hold tied for the 2nd worst record in the entire American League. So how the mighty fall, I guess they're not too mighty, but the Angels always seem to do everything terribly when it's not the month of April in baseball. And the Angels definitely do not deserve to be on the top 15 anymore. Yeah, that takes us to the number 15 spot. And who do you have there, Scott?
Yeah, let's start off with the A's. The A's beat Texas up pretty good the past couple of weeks. They won 4 out of 6, I believe, and they're finally going to make the list. Things are going very well. They win 7 out of 10, and who knows how long the pitching's going to hold up. But they're back to playing hero ball. That's what we know them and love them for, and it's very exciting. So I'm going to stick them in the top half of the league.
I'll start off with Milwaukee, who's 18-18 right now. I feel like it's an interesting team because they have a lot of team victories. It's not one dude carrying them on either side of the ball. They have more runs allowed than what you would expect from a Milwaukee Brewers team. But as the season goes on, I'd expect that number of runs to not drop because it physically is impossible to drop, but to even out a little bit because they're going to get healthier on the pitching side, figure some things out in the back end of the bullpen from some of the guys that maybe haven't gotten off the starts they expected. But even with maybe not the greatest start on the pitching side, they're very much still in it in the National League and holding the 500 record. Number 14.
At number 14, the Boston Red Sox rejoin the list here. Things have been rough this week, but overall they're playing much better. 18-18, they're right back in that playoff race. They still have a top 10 lineup, but there's not a whole lot of consistency outside of Crochet in the rotation. Another team with a lot of injuries there, so I won't kill them yet, but hey, they're back at 500, and things were not looking good to start.
I also have the Red Sox as my number 14 team to move up 1 spot from the last rankings. I feel like I should say as well, too, I did not have Milwaukee on the last rankings. I think I forgot to say that. Boston moves up 1 spot. Maybe not the win-loss that they've expected to start the season, sitting at 500. But the offense has been great from the guys that you'd expect it to be. Bregman, Devers, Duran, Christian Campbell, whoever it is, it seems like they're hitting. Tristan Casas, I know, just torn patellar tendon this past week, so hopefully he has a solid recovery in the future. But the biggest fault of this team has definitely been the rotation and back end of the bullpen. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to figure that out because they do have the Cy Young, one of the top Cy Young candidates, and Garrett Crochet right now. But outside of that, like you said, it's been really rough to find outs. And when you want to become a playoff team, you're going to have to get 27 every single game. So they'll figure it out most likely, but I'm curious to see how much this offense can carry them. Number 13.
At 13, another first-timer to the list this year. I'm going to give it to the Atlanta Braves. Terrible start, but they're finally starting to get hot here. Guys are coming back from injury. They won series against Arizona, St. Louis, and Minnesota, and they're only a few games back of Philly. So I would say that they are definitely right back into the NL East hunt.
Number 13, moving down 6 spots for me, a team that I expected to be a bit better than what they are right now, is the Arizona Diamondbacks. The pitching staff especially has been quite underwhelming, but they've dealt with some considerable injuries on the back end of the bullpen side with A.J. Puck and Justin Martinez. Corbin Carroll on the offensive side, though, completely all right from what we thought. Really changed how he played last year with his shoulder injury and maybe not being fully healthy. Definitely looks very healthy now and is MVP candidate and is carrying this Arizona Diamondbacks team. Has a great offense, but not too much of pitching staff. Number 12.
At 12 is where I got Arizona. They're going down 4 spots from 8. Only 4 and 6 in their last 10. I got to drop them down a little bit, but they look pretty good against the Mets. They've had some crazy comebacks over the past couple of weeks, so you can tell that the explosion is still there, but I agree with you. Martinez injury is freaking brutal, man. I was really expecting a great year from him.
Number 12 for me is going to be where I slot the Kansas City Royals. I believe they're the team that has scored the least amount of runs out of any team on this list for me. Outside of Bobby Witt, they haven't really found a way to get going on the offensive side, but that's completely okay as of right now because they're still in a playoff spot because of how good that pitching staff is. Whether it's the starters, Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, or the back end of the bullpen with Estevez, Urseg, whoever it is that they put back there, they're getting outs. And it's working, I guess, right now, despite not scoring a ton of runs. Yeah. Number 11.
Yeah, 11, I got Kansas City back up into the top 15 because they're on fire. 8 out of 10. And don't have a whole lot of people to thank outside of Bobby Witt and Michael Garcia for the offense and, of course, the pitching staff, like you said. So the usual here. They just got to beat the 2 rivals ranked ahead of them if they want that top 10 spot.
First time in the rankings this year. I'm going to do it. I'm putting the A's at number 11. The offense has just been so fun to watch. And while in the grand scheme of things, maybe the 157 runs isn't lighting up the scoreboard every single night. But when we look at the lineup that was displayed last night, where we had Andujar at third base, Luis Urias at second base, Soderstrom on left, and it just felt 1 through 9 that the guys that you had up there you were comfortable with and getting a knock and coming up big, and that's what ended up happening. Throughout the entirety of the game, you walk your 4 or your 5 and 6 hitter to face a 7 hitter, usually not that good, but that 7 hitter is coincidentally hitting 340.
Mm-hmm.
Don't understand why that makes sense in the first place, but the A's win that game. Obviously, the big question, defense and pitching staff. The defense, I mean, they're saying fuck it with the defense. Andujar at third is not really the greatest way to go. We've seen that. J.D. Day is one of the worst graded outfielders in the entirety of the MLB right now. But they're scoring enough runs to make it work. The pitching staff, 3 starters is really all they need right now. Sevy, Sears, and Hoagland look to be a good trio. In the back end of the bullpen, even with Mason Miller's rough outing on Saturday, has been great with him, Justin Sterner, Grant Holman, one of your guys, Tyler Ferguson, and even TJ McFarland, who seems to find a way into an MLB bullpen every single year the past 10 years.
Always need a lefty.
Of course. Into the top 10, Skyler, who do you have here?
I got the Cleveland Guardians up a couple spots back into the top 10 from 13 because since we've last done this, they've won a big series against Kansas City and the Yankees, too. So they're back up here. Not quite the pitching staff we're used to seeing from them. That minus 23 run differential explains that pretty well. But the top of the lineup's hot. J. Ram, Stephen Kwan, even Kyle Manzardo now. Just wait until they call more guys up. I'm just going to keep rising.
Cleveland is my number 10 team as well, too, but they do not move in my rankings. This is exactly where I had them last time. What we expect for the Cleveland team, especially managed by Stephen Vogt, is a very tidy team, locked in on all aspects of the game. And this year it feels like they're a bit rougher around the edges, especially with their star players, Emmanuel Clase and Jose Ramirez, maybe not off to the greatest start. Even with that and their negative run differential, they're still 5 games over 500 as we sit right now, hold the number 1 wild card in the AL. And Cleveland's finding a way to win games because that's exactly what they do, even with the rough starts from their stars. Number 9.
At 9, I got the Phillies dropping down from 7 because they got swept by the Mets. So they're going to drop down a little bit. I'm not worried yet. This is a team, I mentioned it last time too. I think they get hot in July. It's, not the worst time to be hot either when the weather gets warm. And they come back strong after that sweep, and they look really good against the Mets and the Diamondbacks. So Trey Turner and Max Kepler specifically have been getting on base a ton. Just got to wait for everybody else. I still think they're a top 10 team, though.
Yeah. My number 9 team as well, too, not moving at all in the rankings, is going to be the Philadelphia Phillies, just like you had. It's weird with this Phillies team because I feel like they're different than everybody else, but they're kind of boring to watch play because it is so much of what you expect to be on the field. And if they're not good, then you're kind of just like, okay, well, this doesn't really make any sense. And they've been slightly underwhelming, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Bryce Harper, maybe as a whole, I think also Trey Turner hasn't really gotten off to the start that he's expected. Nick Castellanos as well, too, guys like that, JT Realmuto. But the pitching staff has pretty much been as advertised, especially with the addition of Jesus Luzardo. That's been the extremely fun part of their team to watch so far. He's been a Cy Young candidate. And going into his contract year, looks like he's going to be making a lot of money over the next 6 to 7 years in the future. Number 8.
At number 8, I got the San Francisco Giants. A pretty big drop from 8, but I wouldn't read too much into that. We just know that they're human now. They're not quite on the Dodgers level of things. We saw them drop a couple games that they probably shouldn't have, like to Colorado. But then again, they turn around and win a couple series. I just don't like how the offense looks against teams like the Cubs and the Padres right now. So I'm dropping them down. But, Jung-Hoo Lee still hitting well.
Yeah.
Pitching staff.
Number 8 for me.
Ooh. Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. That's it.
Number 8 for me is going to be where I have the Bronx Bombers, the New York Yankees, moving down 3 spots on my rankings. When you look at the record, you see 19-16. You're kind of like, what? Expected a bit more from the Yankees. But then you look at the run differential, you see 190 runs scored, 139 runs allowed, and they go. Maybe they're just losing the close games, and that's exactly what's been happening. With Devin Williams specifically, if it wasn't for him, I think I saw something saying that if you take out all of his performances and you just put in like a replacement level reliever or something like that, Yankees end up being like 24-11 or something like that. So they're that close to, being the best team in the league, and yet they're not right now. Will that come back to bite them? Who knows? The Red Sox or any other team in their division hasn't really gotten going yet, so it's not really too big of a problem yet. But they're being led by perhaps the greatest hitter that we've ever seen in our lifetime, and Aaron Judge as well, too. Feel like I should throw that one in there. But not the greatest start for the Yankees, which takes them down 3 spots. And another team, like you said, with the Phillies, though, that we'd probably expect to get going later on in the season, too. Number 7.
At 7's where I'm going to put Seattle. I had them unranked. And, of course, since we've last talked about power rankings, they've went on this incredible run offensively, specifically. A lot of injuries. Logan Gilbert's now hurt. That is absolutely brutal, but they're finding ways to win. The only reason I don't have them even higher is because they still can't seem to beat the A's, which is hilarious as an A's fan, but I can't put them above the Bronx Bombers yet.
Number 7 for me is going to be where I have the Gigantes, sitting at 22-14 right now. Got off to that crazy start in the first couple of weeks of the season and have since slowed down quite a bit. But they're still led by a potential Cy Young candidate in Logan Webb, and the offense has been a very deep squad that we kind of expected it to be. So the Giants holding on to a playoff spot right now, and I think it'll remain that way for the foreseeable future. Dropping down 3 spots, so I don't know if I said that. Number 6.
At 6 is where I got the Yankees. I'm only going to drop them down 2 spots, and that's mainly because of the horrible bullpen activity that's been happening, like you said. But they're still scoring a ton of runs. I still think they're in this upper echelon of teams. So I'm not worried yet, but it's definitely something you don't like to see, right? If they don't score 190 runs in this first part of the season, they're going to be in serious trouble, though.
Number 6, definitely the biggest jump of any team this entire year, the Seattle Mariners. And they're not the Mariners that we expected to see going into the season because the rotation has been somewhat subpar. However, they've dealt with very big injuries to the top line guys and Logan Gilbert. Haven't had George Kirby the entirety of the year, and some other guys as well maybe not performing the way that you'd expect. However, the Seattle Mariners lineup is hitting the baseball, and they're hitting the baseball hard, specifically Cal Raleigh, who leads the MLB in homers, and Jorge Polanco, who's putting up
back
MLB The Show stats right now, nearing 1.2 OPS. So the Mariners, not the team that we expected, but still really good right now, sitting at 20-14. On to the top 5.
Starting off the top 5, we got another big riser, the Detroit Tigers, up from the 9 spot. I think we both had them going to the postseason, but a very big lead in the Central, at least as of a week ago. They're 7 out of their last 10, still in first place by a couple of games. And it's just like we predicted. If they get a little better on offense and find one more starting pitcher, well, they found a couple. Jackson Jobe has been perfectly fine. I think he's still got like a sub 3.5 ERA, and they're very fun to watch.
Yeah, I also have the Detroit Tigers as the number 5 team. They move up 3 spots for me. Have the best record in the AL, the highest ranking team in the AL in my entire top 15 rankings. And I feel like it's tough to say with confidence that the Tigers are the best team in the AL, even though they hold the record and they have looked pretty consistent throughout the entire of the year. It's just, I don't know, something about it feels weird to say right now because maybe the roster doesn't line up that way on paper. However, the offense has been so much deeper than last year, and regardless of the roster, AJ Hinch has been playing the chess match to a T when it comes to matching up well and getting the right guy into the right situation. So the Detroit Tigers sitting at number 5 with the best record in the American League. Number 4.
At number 4, I got the Chicago Cubs. They're up from the 6th spot, also playing very well. 22 wins in the Central. That's very big because we know that that's a division that sometimes you just need about 85 wins to win. But it's all about the offense for them, right? Over 200 runs scored. They look absolutely unstoppable. Another game last night, they scored 9 on the Giants, who have been pitching very well this year. So I think the Cubs are definitely on pace for first place in that division.
Number 4 for me is going to be where I slot the Padres. They moved down 2 spots. They have the best pitching staff in baseball so far. The only team that has not allowed 100 runs throughout the entire season. Particularly stellar bullpen headed by Robert Suarez, who we might talk about a bit later in our season awards segment. But the offense has been kind of slow outside of Fernando Tatis and maybe even Gavin Sheets as well too. But luckily for them, Jackson Merrill is back today. He got off to a really good start in the first week or so of the season before he got hurt. And if he picks up where he left off, I think this Padres offense will be completely okay and should propel themselves into a very smooth playoff spot as of right now.
Yep.
Number 3.
At 3, I got the Mets coming up from 5. Another team moving up a couple spots because they've also been awesome so far. The biggest worry going into the season was the pitching staff, and this makeshift rotation has been excellent. Griffin Canning, Tanner McGill, Clay Holmes. Guys, you didn't know if they were going to be able to start more than 10 games this year. Off to a fantastic start. Soto not having the ideal beginning to the season in the New Jersey, but it doesn't matter because they got Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor carrying the load for him.
Yeah, the Mets are my number 3 team as well too. They actually do not move at all from the last rankings, which kind of surprised me. They're navigating that slow Juan Soto start. It's not a slow start in general, but it's slow for Juan Soto, of course. Lindor and Pete Alonso have been great. Maybe Mark Vientos not off to the greatest start either, but the pitching staff, top to bottom, has been one of the best groups in the entire of the league. So the Mets sit at the number 3 spot for me. Takes us to number 2.
At number 2, I'm going to keep the Padres up here because they've won 6 in a row. And they're only half a game out of the Dodgers, who is, spoiler, probably going to be the number 1 spot for a while this season. But we'll get into that. They've been fantastic at home. They don't give up a whole lot of runs. The bullpen's amazing. You mentioned it, I believe, earlier. Under 100 runs still this season is great, so I couldn't move them.
Number 2, not number 4, but moving up 4 spots, that's why I said that backwards, is the Chicago Cubs for me. Led by 2 MVP candidates right now in Kyle Tucker and PCA. The offense has been so good that it does not matter what the pitching does. The 217 runs, only team to score over 200 right now. Pitching staff hasn't been bad either. I feel like that's something to point out as well, too. I know in the long term, Justin Steele being hurt for the whole season is probably going to hurt at some point. But they got the ability, if they want to, at the deadline to add a starter. I wouldn't be shocked if they did. We saw a story come out, I believe this last week or the week before, saying that they were one of the teams trying to get Jesus Luzardo. I'm sure that they kind of probably wish that they did that at this point now, considering how good Luzardo's been and some of the injuries that they've had to deal with in their starting rotation. But regardless, the number 2 spot for the Cubs is way better than I would have expected to put them the entire year. So good job on the Cubs, and hopefully they keep hitting because the Cubs are fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, we know who it is. Tell me about the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers got to stay at the top spot. 24-11. They're still on fire despite all of the injuries. We saw today Teoscar Hernandez, too, is hitting the IL. But, hey, Andy Pages is back up, just destroying the baseball. Like, they always got the next man up in L.A., and it's going to take a lot to dethrone them, I think.
Yeah, the Dodgers, number 1, 24-11, the best record in baseball. They've navigated a ridiculous amount of injuries on both sides of the ball, starting with Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell, and then of Tommy Edman and Teoscar Hernandez, who you mentioned goes on the IL today. They still hold the best record. Maybe Shohei hasn't gotten off to the greatest start. Freddie Freeman's still been dealing with that same ankle injury that we saw him deal with last year in the playoffs, but it's not really hurting him at all because he's hitting like 380 or something like that right now. So the Dodgers hold the number 1 spot as they have the entire year so far. Now moving in to it's a season ended today awards. These are through Cinco de Mayo. We're not including the 1 game so far that has been completed today between the Guardians and the Nationals, but I don't think that would have affected really any of our awards anyways. No. Starting off with the big one, we'll get out of the way early. AL MVP. I wonder who this is.
Yeah, there's one man still hitting 400. That's Aaron Judge. He's also got 11 homers. I've got much more to say other than that. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, Aaron Judge is first in WAR with 3.4, first in WRC plus with 255, or not with 255, but a 255 WRC plus. First in batting average, sitting at 414. First in OBP, 503. First in slug, 759. First time in his career that he's under the 20% K mark, which I think is pretty cool as well, too. He's second in the AL in homers and first in RBIs. Said this briefly earlier, but he is on perhaps the greatest stretch that we've ever seen offensively in MLB history, and that says a lot. So Aaron Judge, just be happy that we're being able to see him in our lifetime, because not a lot of people get to see somebody this good ever play. On to the NL MVP, a bit more of an open spot here.
Yeah, because of that, I'm going to go with Fernando Tatis. He's the heart and soul of the Padres team that is right behind the Dodgers, third in baseball in WAR. So I don't think I'm going too out of pocket here with this pick either. And we're all old enough to understand RBIs are an opportunity stat. So I'll go with Tatis' speed and defense as an edge over Pete Alonso at this point.
I got a fun NL MVP pick, and it's going to be PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong
Mm,
so far. He's fourth in the NL in WAR at 2.1. The 137 WRC plus is tied for 13th, so maybe not the greatest there, but his 9 homers is fourth in the NL. 12 stolen bases is third in the NL. And he's doing this with being the greatest defensive center fielder in the game right now. 100th percentile outs above average, 100th percentile fielding run value, 8 so far. He's been the best 5-tool player in the league, and he's playing on the best offense in the league right now in the Chicago Cubs. So I'll give the early lead to PCA. I think the MLB.com actually put their MVP rankings out today for the first time of the year, which kind of sucks that they did it the same day we did. But PCA wasn't even in the top 5 for the NL. I was like, oh,
really?
maybe this is a bold pick. I thought I wasn't going to be as bold with that, but he's been great. Will he keep it up? I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm putting him here right now, because he deserves to be on it when he won't be in a couple of months, but I hope he stays on. He's fun to watch. Maybe the most fun player to watch in the MLB right now. On to the AL Cy Young.
Yeah, I think we're going Garrett Crochet based off of what we said earlier. One of our favorites going into the season. Scooble's right on his tail, but it's basically the same numbers this far. So Crochet looked just as good as the projections hinted at, even with his limited experience. 2.02 ERA, 56 Ks. Incredible.
I did not go with Crochet. I did not go with Scooble. I decided to go with Hunter Brown as my Cy Young so far. His 1.9 WAR is first among AL pitchers. 1.67 ERA is third. 1.78 FIP is first by a wide margin. He's sixth in innings pitched right now, which is usually a really big indicator for me with the Cy Young. And the sixth innings pitch probably will be higher eventually, because 3 of those guys above him have made another start than he has, so he'll eventually catch up to that number. He's sixth in K per nine right now at 10.3. He's only allowed 1 home run, and he's top 10 in walks per nine as well too. So when you don't walk people, you strike a lot of guys out and you don't give up homers. Usually that's a pretty good track record for success. His four-seamer as well too has been nuts. 0.083 batting average on the pitch while throwing it 36% of the time is pretty ridiculous. So Hunter Brown, early lead right now for the Cy Young in the AL for me. On to the NL side.
I think I still got to go Yamamoto for the National League. Another guy with the sub 1 ERA thus far. 49 Ks in 40 innings isn't bad either. Finally, fair to say it's worth the money he got, which a lot of people didn't think he was at the time, and he's been awesome.
Yeah, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is also going to be my NL Cy Young of the year so far too. 1.4 WAR is third among NL pitchers. His ERA is below 1 at 0.9 right now, which is shockingly first, of course. 2.24 FIP is fourth. His 11 K per nine is sixth, and he's second in the NL with ground ball percentage as well too. So he's not giving up any homers. Kind of goes against my normal Cy Young picks when we talk about, going deep into games and stuff. And we don't really see that too often from him. But when your ERA is under 1, that's Bob Gibson numbers. I don't really care. He's been dominant. The splitter's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, posting a 48% whip right now, average under 100 as well too. Negative launch angle average as well, which means that you can't lift the ball in the air even if you tried, which is often a pretty good indicator of success. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto, NL Cy Young for me so far. Let's move on to the rookies, starting with the AL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, Christian Campbell could easily become a superstar here pretty soon, but I think our guy Jacob Wilson's playing just as well with his insane 341 batting average and 3 walk-off hits. So I'm going to go with our guy in a pretty tight race.
Yeah, maybe bias. I'm going Jay Willie as well too, though. Tied for first in WAR with Christian Campbell at 1.1. The 341 batting average is by far first. The 136 WRC plus is third. He's first in RBI for rookie, and the 4.3 K percent is first by a wide margin. When you come up to the big leagues and you have understood your approach that well, that quickly, you say, holy shit, this guy can fucking hit. And that's exactly what Jacob Wilson is doing right now. NL Rookie of the Year, a bit less exciting, but who do you have here?
I'm going to switch my rookie pick to one of my other guys that I was hoping for a breakout this year. It's AJ Smith-Shawver after a great couple starts in a row. And like we mentioned earlier, that 8 innings, only 1 hit allowed yesterday against the Reds. Hopefully a start to something great for Atlanta.
I'm going to go with a fun pick here so far, and it's going to be Ben Kasparius of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's second in WAR of NL rookies right now at .7. He's first in ERA among any NL rookie with at least 25 innings pitched at 2.81. First among any NL rookie in K per 9 with at least 25 innings pitched at 9.8. And his stuff is ridiculous. A brief StatCast look, you see a lot of red. But quickly, I'll go over some percentiles for you. 94th in pitching run value, 88th in chase rate, 96th in hard hit rates, and in expected ERA, average exit velocity, whiff, K, walk, barrel. He's all at least a 75th percentile. So he's dominating right now. He's got a fun arsenal as well, too, to go with his stats. And the Dodgers pitching lab does it again, man. Ben Kasparius, rookie of the year for me so far. We expected it to be a Dodgers pitcher, but definitely not him. Moving on to the managers of the year. AL manager of the year. Who do you have here?
I think if the season ended today, it would go to Dan Wilson of Seattle for reviving the Mariners. A little more shocking than the Tigers start, in my opinion. So that's why I went with Wilson over AJ Hinch.
I think both valid choices, but I'm going to go with the guy I originally selected this year, and that's Mark Kotsay. To be above 500 right now with the schedule that they've had. I know they've played the White Sox twice and have played the Marlins, but stayed afloat versus some really tough teams early in the year, and I think Mark Kotsay deserves that award if the season were to end today. On to NL Manager of the Year.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Craig Counsell. He's taken the same ideology he had in Milwaukee with that limited supporting cast, and he brings it over to the lethal Cubs lineup, and they've just been blowing teams out left and right. So I think he has a lot to do with the Cubs' success this year.
I'm also going Craig Counsell for this. This feels pretty easy for me right now. Maybe it's just plug and play right now for the pitching position. Doesn't really matter what you do because the lineup's going to go out there and hit regardless. But Craig Counsell, I think, deserves it. Definitely has been one of the best managers in the league for a long time. Last couple of awards here, I guess. Going to the reliever of the year, starting off with the American League.
Yeah, I'll stick with Andres Munoz of Seattle. Still hasn't given up a run. We got to see him firsthand, absolutely filthy last night, and force us to go to another extra inning. So I don't feel any reason to go away from him.
Yeah, I'm also going Andres Munoz for reliever of the year in the AL. His 12 saves is first, 12.2 K per 9, 1.77 FIP is fifth among AL relievers, and his .0000000 ERA is, of course, first in 17 innings, even though the A's almost got him last night. NL reliever of the year.
We'll go Robert Suarez from San Diego for the same reasons. He's given up 1 run in 16 innings. It's been great, and that San Diego team needs a great bullpen since not a lot of guys in the offense have been spectacular this year, and they're still winning.
I hinted at this a little bit earlier, but it is going to be Robert Suarez for me as well, too. 14 saves is first in the NL. 0.9 WAR is first in the NL, even though reliever WAR maybe not as big of a stat as it is for other positions. 10.1 K per 9, 2.3 walks per 9, 0 home runs allowed, a 5.56 ERA, and a 1.56 FIP are both first in the NL among relievers in 16 innings pitched. He has been one of the reasons why the Padres have such a good record, because the ninth inning, if you have a lead in it, it's over. You know that you're going to win the game there. Takes us to the playoff predictions now, the last segment that we have for this. We're doing as is, so we're not like predicting, for the rest of the 120 games of the season, how would it go? But if the season ended today, you just snapshot the standings and then the playoff picture, how would it go? We'll start off with the AL wildcard with 2 series with the Yankees and the Kansas City Royals to start us off.
Yeah, I think the Yankees would be fine in this series. Kansas City's got some great pitching, but at Yankee Stadium, you know they're going to put up a lot of runs.
Yeah, like you said, at Yankee Stadium, Yankees the 3 seed here, Kansas City the 6. I say Kansas, or not Kansas City. I said the Yankees in 3. One of those games being blown by Devin Williams, but I think the Yankees bullpen outside of him is still good enough to find a way to win games. And I'm curious to see if it would be in if the Yankees were in this situation, would they really still trust Devin Williams to be their closer, or would it be Luke Weaver, who's been so good this year, Fernando Cruz, guys like that? Because if you have a 1-run lead in the 9th, I don't think Boone would be like, yeah, let me go throw out the guy that has a 12 ERA to work through his problems right now.
Yeah.
The other series in the AL is a big one for us. The 4-seeded Cleveland Guardians facing the 5-seeded Athletics.
I actually think this wouldn't be the worst matchup for the A's, especially being on the road. They've been playing much better in Sacramento, of course, but they wouldn't be playing in Sacramento if they were in the postseason. So I think being on the road to start helps them here. They win this close series against Cleveland because they have a much better bullpen right now.
Yeah, I think this does really work out for the A's as far as scenarios go. If you were facing a really tough offense and you had to, get through 6 innings with a Jeffrey Springs or something like that, I think you'd be like, oh, shit, maybe not. But Cleveland Guardians offense isn't like that right now. And on the flip side, I don't think Cleveland has a single starter that could shut down this A's lineup. And then once it gets to the back end, I think I'm giving the slight lead to the A's bullpen right now. When you look at the Cleveland team, I mean, Cade Smith had a bit of a blow up today. Hunter Gaddis has been great, but maybe not as good as what you would expect him to be. And Emmanuel Clase just somehow is giving up runs still. So I go the A's in 3 here in a bit of an upset. Moving to the NL wild card with the Cubs and the Phillies to start us off a fun 6-3 series.
Yeah, of course, right. Philly could be totally different looking once we get to October. But as of right now, I'm going to stick with the hotter lineup. That's the Cubs. We mentioned it earlier. There's nothing to worry about yet with the rotation. And Phillies hasn't been good. So I'll take the Cubs with a home field advantage in a wild card round.
I'm going to take the Cubs as well, too. I just don't think there's a way you can slow down this lineup right now. So I'll go the Cubs in 3 because I'll say Philly gets one of those 2. Or one of those 3. The other NL wildcard series is also a really fun one. The Padres versus the Giants, the Padres being the higher seed here.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick with the Padres here, too, because, again, this is a team that's probably going to look much stronger once we get to October than San Francisco, mostly because of the pitching. Verlander's been kind of the weak link, but who knows if he's even available by then. So I'm going to take San Diego because of their pitching.
Yeah, I think the 3 starters for the Padres give them a slight edge with King, Cease, and Pivetta with how good he's been so far this year, which is enough for them to take the series in 3 games with all 3 wild card rounds going to 3 games for me. And I believe we have the same winners, which makes it line up really well for the ALDS, which we'll start with now with the Yankees and the Mariners, like it's 2001.
Yeah, I was going to say the Yankees have been the kryptonite for Seattle for about 35 years now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Seattle's got a fantastic pitching staff, but already things are going wrong. We don't even know if Castillo's going to be on the squad by this time. I'll take the Yankees, even though they haven't looked like the Yankees of last year. I think this is a great matchup for them. I'll say they win in 5.
With no Gilbert or no Kirby, if the series were to start today, it would be really tough to see the Seattle Mariners pull out a series victory against the Yankees, who have been in so many playoff series at this point in the past few years. So I'll go with the Yankees in 4 games over Seattle. Whenever the A's are in the playoffs, they seem to play this team. The A's versus the 1-seeded Tigers. Can the A's finally get the revenge for the Tigers blowing up our childhood?
Detroit may be an overrated 1 seed in this scenario, but I still think they would get us again. They just seem to always get us in this round. We've seen it in person too, even, and they just have the starting pitching to completely shut us down. And with our questionable rotation, they probably win a bunch of games like 5-1.
It would hurt to see this matchup go again because it feels like the baseball gods have rubbed this in our face the past 10 years because it feels like whenever we play them in the regular season, we destroy the Tigers. But for whatever reason, when we match up in October, it doesn't seem to go our way, which leads me to say the Tigers get us in 5 games. Just the ace material with Tariq Skubal, I think, matters. You'd probably see him twice in the series, and the bullpen is a lot tougher than what you would be facing with Cleveland right now if you were to match up with them. So I'll go the Tigers in 5. I still think the A's could get a couple, but not enough to win the series. Moving to the NLDS now, we'll start off with the Cubs versus the Mets.
Yeah, this one, I'm going to end up sticking with the higher seed, the Mets. It would be a very explosive series, but I think the Mets are one of the few teams that could keep up with Chicago. And the pitching staff has been a lot better than Chicago's this year. So because of that, I'm going to stick with the Mets.
Yeah, I think this would be a great series to watch. I believe we saw this matchup in 2017 at some point, maybe. But I'm going with the Cubs in 5 games. I think they pushed each other to the brink. But that Cubs offense is just so hard to stop. And I have the Cubs moving on to the NLCS. San Diego and LA for our other one. Feels like whenever we get these two in the playoff matchup, it's a treat to watch. How do you think this one plays out?
I think it would play out like it always does. Definitely 5 games again on the prediction. But I am going to stick with the Dodgers. It's all the lineup. I would imagine many guys are a lot healthier for this matchup than current day. And even still, they got all the depth they need in the world for a long series.
I think it would be interesting. With the Dodgers injuries, I just don't think you could do anything to beat them, even still with those injuries. So I go Dodgers in 3 games, quick series. I know a bit of a shocker there, but the Dodgers move on to the NLCS. ALCS now, we have the same matchup.
Yep.
The Yankees versus the Tigers for a trip to the World Series on the line.
Yeah, I think I would take the Yankees again. Detroit's played them tough here, but there's so much firepower in New York. I think they would beat them before the 7th game, and that's when you start getting nervous with the bullpen of the Yankees. But I think a lot like the Cleveland ALCS of last season, the Yankees would get the Central team again.
Interesting matchup here. It's kind of like David versus Goliath. I do have the Yankees winning in 7. I do think there would be some mishaps by the Yankees that lead the Tigers to win the games because I just feel like they're a more sound baseball team. You really think of a baseball team and playing things the right way, kind of the Milwaukee Brewers of the AL right now, and the Detroit Tigers. But the Yankees have the best player in the world right now in Aaron Judge, and I think that's enough to get them into the World Series again. NLCS, you have the Mets versus the Dodgers. I have the Cubs versus the Dodgers. Who do you think goes to the Fall Classic here?
Maybe it's just me, but the Dodgers have a lot of weaknesses right now. And if there were any year that they would fall apart in the Shohei era, I think it's the year where all the pitchers are hurt. And I think this gives me the best odds here to have an upset. And I know baseball's not a lot like football when it comes to the postseason, but I think of Kansas City last year and how we were like, it's Kansas City. We can't move them down from the 1 spot. We have to pick them. And I don't want to do that again. So I'm going to pick the Mets in 7, a crazy series where they get the Dodgers, shockingly. And then maybe that sets up the Dodgers to go win another 3 more in a row after this. But I think there's going to be a year where they collapse because that's just what happens in baseball.
Yeah, very true. I have the Cubs versus Dodgers here. If there's one team that you need all of your pitching for to get through, it's the Cubs. And Dodgers do not have that right now or anywhere close to it. I'd be curious to see who they'd even start in a Game 3 scenario there, or even if they'd want to give Roki the ball in a Game 2 or something like that. So I got the Cubs in 6. I just think it's too much to handle. And the Cubs back end of the bullpen as well, too, is no slouch. I would love to see Wrigley rocking like that as we would head to a World Series between the Yankees and the Cubs. Skylar has the Yankees versus the Mets, a Subway Series. How does the Subway Series play out for you?
Yeah, we finally get
World
that.
Series MVP. Sorry.
Yes. I'd make sure to write that down because there was one year I forgot, and I think that was the year you had Jorge Soler So
Great
never
pick, by
forget
the way.
about that
I'm
one.
always never gonna live that down.
But we finally get that Subway Series. Again, Soto versus Judge, and the Mets finally get one. They've been building this roster for right now. They look pretty unbothered by most of the teams they played over the past month. So, you know what? I'm going to take the Mets. I think it's a more complete team than the Yankees. MVP is going to be Mark Vientos because it's always that power hitter that may be slumping a little bit before the postseason starts. And it'd be hilarious because we know that Alex bet on his doubles, watch him not, or his doubles and RBIs or something, and watch him not get that, but World Series MVP, that'd be hilarious.
That would be funny. My World Series, Yankees versus Cubs, two big market teams here, two iconic franchises, two fun ballparks to see World Series games in. And I have the Cubs winning in 6. I just don't think the Yankees bullpen is good enough right now. I know I've harped on it over and over and over and over and over again this episode, but the Cubs offense is legit 1 through 9. When you have two MVP candidates like PCA and Kyle Tucker, combined with Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch, Carson Kelly, who's somehow still hitting ridiculous. This Cubs team just becomes so hard to get a consistent 27 outs against. So I'll go with the Cubs in 6, with the World Series MVP being a guy who's going to get paid a shit ton of money here very soon, and Kyle Tucker.
You think he would stay after that?
It depends if the Cubs are willing to hand out half a bill.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know. I'll say that. I'm going to affirm I don't know right now.
All right. Well, either way, I like that we both have the Yankees losing.
Of course. That takes us out to the second half and some NBA stuff, which I think Skyler's going to get into.
Yeah. We're down to 8 teams now in the NBA playoffs as things get more interesting by the night, right? In the East, Indiana takes a 1-0 series lead over the Cavs after winning big on the road in game 1. That'll be a theme here in the second round. No Darius Garland for the Cavs. And, we all love Ty Jerome, but when he's playing 20 minutes a night, not 35 in a playoff game. Tonight, Indiana's getting their ass kicked by Cleveland. So not really a shocker. Cleveland's the 1 seed and they're at home. They were going to get one, but definitely something to watch here. On the other side of the East, the Knicks also win game 1 on the road in the Garden. Brunson and Anunoby, they look great. And the Celtics missed 45 three-pointers last night. Not a great start from Tatum and Brown. Over in the West, Denver kicked things off last night with the third game 1 victory for the road team, 121-119 on the back of Nikola Jokic's 42 and 22, just straight up dominance from the former MVP. And the last series will be number 6 Minnesota, number 7 Golden State, game 1 tonight in Minnesota. It'd be awesome to see this continue with the Warriors, the trend with the road teams winning game 1. But I would keep in mind with the Warriors, with Kuminga and Trace Jackson-Davis unable to play in the playoffs, they've basically been benched. It seems like they're a whole man down. So that worries me, but this should be a very exciting series. I feel like everyone's just sick of watching Houston. So there's going to be a lot more points in this series.
Yeah, definitely going to be a fun one between Ant and Steph as well, too. I think that's a fun storyline. Ant's taking down KD. He's taking down LeBron. And the last guy to, really have to get through if you want to pass the torch or want to get the torch passed down to you is getting the guy who's been the biggest winner in this generation. That's Stephen Curry. So hopefully he doesn't, because I would like to see the Warriors continue on to the Western Conference Finals, not just because of my pick, but because we're Warrior fans, of course. But just a fun storyline. I'm sure First Take, ESPN, all this stuff is going to be very much, harping on that storyline as the series goes on.
I'm excited.
That takes us, though, to our Layups Bowl predictions before we end the episode. Last week, for the Layups, I had Cincinnati over St. Louis on a Wednesday. That did not happen, unfortunately. Skyler had SF over Colorado on Friday. That did happen there. This week, I have the Dodgers versus Miami, which is tomorrow's game, over 8.5 or 9.5, if that's the line. This is Volante Belloso versus TBD right now for the Dodgers. I like both of these lineups right now in their matchups, and I think they can score a lot of runs. They did yesterday. I don't think there's been a ton of runs scored yet today, but I'll take the over for tomorrow's game.
For my layup, also going with a solo baseball pick. We'll go with Miami playing against Chicago. They're going to win on Friday night. That lineup's been on fire. Plus, you got Max Meyer on the bump for that night against Bryce Wilson. Bryce or Brees?
I think it's Bryce.
Okay, that's just one of those guys. There's a lot of Breeses and Bryces and Millers and Wilsons. But anyways, I got the Marlins. I think it should be the perfect combo against a pretty bad team, the White Sox.
Last week, bold predictions. I had Arizona over the Mets on Wednesday. That did happen. They're actually playing this Wednesday as well, too, ironically. I also had the Warriors winning the series against Houston, winning the play-in against, not Milwaukee, against Memphis, which kind of made it a bold prediction. So that went green because that was from a few weeks ago. Skyler had Minnesota over Boston on Friday. That one, unfortunately, did not hit. This week, I'm picking the Dubs. Officially an underdog in a series for the first time in over 10 years, I think I saw.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking the Warriors to win the series over the Minnesota Timberwolves, which would be a big-time win for them.
That'd be pretty cool. I'm sticking with the formula that I got over here with my bold prediction. Solo baseball game, a hot lineup, Arizona against their rivals, the Dodgers. I think that at least one of those nights, Arizona's offense should be on fire and just something that the Dodgers can't recover from because that seems to be the trend with Arizona this season. So that's going to be Eduardo Rodriguez. Hopefully being at home will help with that high ERA against Roki. Roki tends to flame out if he can't locate and, once every other start. So I'm just playing the odds here with Arizona Friday night.
Yeah. That'll be a fun series too, in general. But that's going to do it, though, for episode 243. Next week, 244, I don't know. Maybe talk basketball, maybe talk, or definitely we'll talk some baseball. But I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there, unless you got something off the dome right now.
No, not really. Yeah, I guess the only other thing we didn't really talk about, football, Justin Tucker got released. It's unfortunate. We kind of accidentally predicted the downfall of Justin Tucker on the podcast last year.
I mean, yeah, sucks for him, but what you deserve, I guess.
Yeah.
That's going to do it. We'll see you guys next week for episode 243. Skyler, closing notes. Anything you got to say?
Let's go Dubs. Let's win game one on the road.
Let's go Dubs. Let's go A's.
Yes. Let's get first place tonight too, Kyle.
It's true.
All right.